Well, you hardly want to hear words after that, right? Wow. Well, let's stare into space for just a moment. Oh, you know, there are spectacular musicians that can do that. I mean, I've got a little way to see up here, and that sound, I mean, you have to be an engineer, you have to know rhythm, you have to know chord structure, you have to know breathing, then you have to have the concept of a shamanic journey. And then you have that, and Okay. First timers, are you blown away? Do we have someone to give the newcomer packets out? Okay, all right. So Gail is running to get the newcomer packets, and this is my moment to welcome people who are here for the very first time. We don't have this all the time, but we have something equally fabulous. And so my hope for you is that you feel like you are at home, that somehow you stumbled into here, somebody invited you for the 14th time, and you're finally here, and you go, oh my God, I could have come earlier. So if you're here for the very first time, these wonderful goddesses just have a packet for you of information. That's all we want to do. Hands up if you're here for the first time. There's one. There's one. He's got a smile on his face. And there's one. And Gail back there. 3 wonderful men who are here for the first time. That is great. Woo-hoo. All right. Excellent. Okay, I'm back in my body. And this isn't working. Okay, did I do that or did you do that? Okay, fine. All right, good. Okay, it's slow. The PowerPoint is still on its journey. And so if it's slow today, it's just in the mood. So at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, this is our vision and mission. This is why we do everything, because we believe in awakening personal transformation through teaching tools for positive change. That's what we do. And we have a theme for the whole year, and that theme is this: a world that works for everyone. That's the global vision. So this week, from Sunday to Thursday, I was at a ministers' meeting in Encinitas. And there was a lot of information going out to the ministers about inclusion and about healing among groups. And I want to report to you that your denomination is actually doing the work of creating a world that works for everyone. And it's very, very wonderful. And programs will be rolled out, and you'll hear more about that. And even though the year is coming down to a close, we really know that this is our mission, creating a world that works for everyone, because the science of mind is really about including everybody and not excluding anyone. We say that we have spiritual principles that work, and we identify those same spiritual principles in the mystical aspect of every single religion on the planet. So it's not that we have something that nobody else has, it's that we have sort of a simplified way of saying this is the way to enlightenment because we're all one, and then we can identify in different wisdom traditions the same philosophy. So we're not different, we're bringing everything together. I love that. We're in October, can you believe it? October. The October theme reflects this global vision, and that is global transformation through personal transformation. So I want you to look at this image and see all these little individual dancing people on the planet. I love this image because it says, as more and more people heal, as more and more people get the message that we are all one. We're not separate in individual races and creeds and philosophies and gender preferences and religious preferences, where we all want the same thing. As one after another gets that, we have the world transforming. And if you listen to the news or watch the news and you see that there is more violence, supposedly, it was kind of the consensus at the ministers' meeting that there's not more violence, we're just seeing it. And that as this, as the philosophy, the scared philosophy that says we're different and we're better rises, we have to do our loving work of saying we're all the same and we all want the same things. So with that, I'd like to draw your attention to Galia's beautiful altar. And everything on here is symbolic. A tall candle represents the light of intuition, which guides us in divine guidance. Ganesh, the Indian god, is the remover of obstacles, and Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity, abundance, and good fortune. There's a lot of gold on the altar, which is about blessings and abundance and riches of all kinds, overseen by Tara, the goddess of compassion. So is that just so, so beautiful? So thank you. The quote that we are working with today is this: "We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of the individual." And we actually pretty much believe that literally. The teaching is that there are answers, guidance, wisdom, there's direction on choices, and there's all the information we wish we had when we made that decision that didn't work out so well for us. There's all this information, and it can be accessed because there's actually one mind, and that is the mind of God with which we all use. So if this is true that we actually have access to all the information that would make our life peaceful, prosperous, abundant, loving, joyful, and give us the path through which we express our best self, why does it seem difficult? If it's there, why can't it be as easy as answering the telephone? You know? If it's in the mind of God, why can't we just say, okay, give me the download, please, I'm ready? I have an answer. And that answer is the title of the talk. The title of the talk is Direct Revelation of Truth Can Be Circuitous. So what we're talking about is intuition. So let's talk about what intuition is. So I love this image, that light right in the third eye there that means divine revelation. So this is what I think is intuition: the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. That's intuition. And another word for it is direct revelation. So we have intuition meaning the same as direct revelation, which is the divine download, which we wish we could get on the telephone. So I have an answer for why it's a little bit circuitous and difficult to discern what God's voice is saying. And that is the entire quote is a little bit more than the quote that, you know, is the one that was given out to all the churches. And this is directly from the What We Believe essay by our founder, Ernest Holmes. I'm going to read to you the whole sentence, and that is: "We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual knowing of the individual, and that any person who lives in close contact with the indwelling God may become a revealer of truth." That's the key. Close contact with the indwelling God. That's what leads to something as clear as the telephone. And close contact with the indwelling God takes some time. For, I don't know anybody that it doesn't take time for. That knowing high truth intuitively requires growth and study and classes and spiritual practice and dedication and silence and listening and listening and listening and listening for that divine voice. And so when we have something that says immediate understanding, it's immediate understanding after lots of work. okay? It feels like, okay, I have the divine download, and it feels immediate, but it's after you've done a lot of meditation. And it's getting to know yourself really well and getting to know what those buttons are that are still your issues. And knowing that those issues are in there. It's not somebody else making you feel some way. It's somebody else plucking that sore place that you haven't healed yet. Now, you don't have to be all done to have direct revelation. But you've got to be along the pathway a ways to have authentic, consistent voice of God. And why is that? I think it's because we have a lot of voices in there. We have the voice of God that's in there pretty much all the time, but we also have the voice of the critic. We have the voice of fear. We have the voice of comparison. We have the voice of our parents. And all those, when we say I'm beginning to sound like my mother, it's because we have internalized the voices that we heard all of our life. So, because we were not told the high truth consistently throughout our lives, probably everyone here was not told, you, my darling thing, are an incarnation of the One. You are a unique expression of God. You have divine work to do that only you can do. In fact, the entire working of the world is dependent upon you giving your divine gifts that only you can give. And this truth must be held humbly as well as powerfully for you to be the very best expression of God that I know you can be. And that is the truth and more about you. And I will tell you this every single day if you want me to, because I love revealing the truth to you. Now, probably nobody was told that every day. Oh, yeah. Well, look how good you two turned out. Good job, Mom and Dad. The rest of us have internalized messages that we're not enough, that there is not enough, there's not enough love, there's not enough good, there's not enough supply in the world, and that it is a dangerous place. And then we have the voices of some of those critics, or the fear voices that imitate God, and that's really confusing. So I've told this story before, but there was a minister long time ago who was in love with someone who rejected her. And this trained minister said, no. God is telling me we are supposed to be together. Bless her heart, bless her heart. That is a voice of fear impersonating the voice of God. So you can see how a lot of study, meditation, and prayer need to go in to being able to hear it as clearly as on the telephone. So the circuitous path, okay, what's the next? Okay. We'll go with this. We'll go with this. Yeah. Okay. So the circuitous path starts here, where we have the idea that there's something managing things out there. It's certainly not us. And the best we can hope for is luck. And so as we go through this circuitous path, what feels like truth evolves for us. So when we're in this beginning place of saying there's some organizing principle, I have no idea what it is, but the truth for me is I'm lucky to have this situation. That's the highest truth that is available to you when a lot of people start this philosophy or any philosophy of empowerment. Then we keep at it, we keep meditating, we keep praying, and there we go. We get to another place where we say, I've got it. I have got the system. The system is, I affirm, I do spiritual mind treatments, I mind my mind, I do not look at anything I do not want, I don't talk about anything I don't want, I don't recognize anything I don't want, I just affirm and affirm and affirm and set goals and go for them and know that there is a divine within me, but I set the course and I speak my word and it is so. And I feel masterful. The highest truth that we get from there is I have to work hard to establish positive habits to create the situation I want. That's progress from I feel lucky today, but I don't know what I'm going to feel like tomorrow. But still, that's a great deal of effort. It's a great deal of effort and very little grace. That feeling of allowing the infinite presence to help us. So then we turn a corner and we get into the flow. And this is, oh my gosh, when I'm here, I can breathe a sigh of relief and say, I do not know, looking at the circumstances, but I know from the feeling within that I am divinely guided and that I am on my right path. The high truth when we're here in the flow is I seem to find myself in the perfect situation. And a lot of times it doesn't have much to do with me, but I seem to find myself in the perfect situation. Now, can you recognize yourself so far in this journey? How many have been in all three of those places? Yeah. And the more we do the spiritual practice, the more we are in the flow. But there's even a better place, and that is the place of absolute oneness where you don't even need to say I. That's the thing about the oneness place. It's that this being that I am familiar with, moves through the world, and God as me is in the perfect place doing the perfect things for all concerned. That's the oneness place where the avatars, where the Buddha and where Jesus managed to be a great deal of the time. So in order to hear and you can see that when we turn that corner and we get into the flow and the oneness places, that it's easier to hear the voice. In fact, sometimes, now, some people never hear the voice like in the telephone, but you are nudged, or you have a feeling. That's intuition. You have a feeling of going and doing and saying yes to something, and it all works out. So that's what we're after. So in order to hear that divine voice or feel the nudge or find ourselves in the place where we have that feeling of where we need to move, there are some things that we need to do first, and I'm going to itemize some of the spiritual realizations that we need to internalize, and you can't just say, okay, that one, all right, check. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes work. So what we're doing here is, thank God this is showing up. It is, thank you, spiritual work that invites true intuition, all right? Are you with me here? Constantly ridding ourselves of that place of having to work too hard and relying on luck and moving into the place of flow and oneness. So the first thing that we need to really embody and know all the time is God is in all, through all, and appears as everything. So this week, after I did the ministers' meeting, it was a big week because I went up to Seattle, and yesterday I was in Seattle and I was doing a workshop for about 50 practitioners for the big church in Seattle. Now, the big church in Seattle is having big changes. They built an auditorium of about 1,200 seats in 2007. And they are having to sell it because of the downturn in the economy, and they did everything from that place of flow that seemed like the right thing to do. The decisions were made, but there is a balloon payment of $5 million that's due in April, and they don't have the $5 million. So this information is not very old in the world. I mean, I'm telling you because it's now out in the world, but I didn't know it really until it was out in the world, and the practitioners didn't know it until just a week or 10 days or a couple weeks ago. And so the workshop had to do with everything that happens when a group is facing a common huge change. There were people that were going, oh, I think this is the greatest thing. Yeah, we don't need this building. We can be out in the world and use all that money. We don't have to have that debt. We can use the money and be out in the world in a whole different way. And there were other people who said, I was married in that room. I am devastated. There were people that said, the chaos hasn't hit yet, and I am afraid of the chaos. And so everybody had a different take on it, and they were processing, needing to get here. God is in all, through all, and appears as everything. And steering that group to the place where everybody realizes nothing is wrong is a piece of work that's not done yet. But we know, those of us that have been in this philosophy for any period of time, that this here is that internalized feeling that when everybody gets it, then the truth of it, the truth that nothing really is wrong, and we will be shown the next expression of this divine CSL Seattle will happen. So it's challenging sometimes. It's easy to know God when you like the thing. But when the thing is hard, it's hard to know that God is all there is. Yeah. Okay. Next is God is in, through, and revealed as us. Each one of us. So unless you equally love every single face you see in the news or on Facebook or however you get your news feed, we've all got some work to do there, right? You know, Mother Teresa, who actually is on the cover of the Science of Mind magazine, celebrating the 90th year of the Science of Mind magazine this month, Mother Teresa said, there goes another face of God in such an interesting disguise. And as we can say that with greater emphasis on the face of God than the interesting disguise, we're there. And we need to be there in order to have the intuitive voice be as clear as the telephone. Next, be passionate about giving your gifts. Now, if you are not passionate about something, you need to listen harder. There is something that you are here to do because you still have a body in which to do it. If you were done with giving your gifts on this plane, you would be off doing something else by now. So finding that thing that is yours to do and then loving doing it is very, it's essential to hear the intuitive voice of God. And I want you to know that God doesn't give you weird assignments, even when they seem weird. And there's that whole story of Moses. That's a big story that's worthy of many, many talks. And I have given 9 talks on Moses in 1 month. 1 year, a while ago, when we thought that was a good idea. But Posey liked it, thank you. Okay. Well, the one talk about the burning bush is when Moses is told, you are going to save my people, and Moses 3 times denies God. Like, what are you thinking? But even then, there was something within Moses that knew the voice of God was right. And so even when we get assignments where our first response is, you've got to be kidding me, if you sit with it and do more spiritual practice, clarity comes, I'm telling you. Then, not necessarily in this order, maybe this should have been first, is establish a spiritual practice that is open. Now, by that I mean listening, you being silent. It's kind of like a conversation. You can't talk all the time in a relationship. You can't. Maybe some of you try, and it doesn't work so well. You must listen. And that is the place where the open spiritual practice of visioning or meditation or asking God a question and then sitting there and not listening to the voices of fear, that's the open practice. If you want an open practice, take a class. If you want an open practice, see a practitioner. They'll give you a bunch of them. Then you ask for direct revelation. You say, show me, tell me, I'm available, please give me a sign. And you know, when I went up to Seattle, I knew about this building thing after I had planned my workshop. So I went in there and the whole thing changed because I said, let that be revealed which needs to be revealed. And I don't do that all the time, but boy, oh boy, thank God I did it yesterday, because they needed it. They needed it. They didn't need what I'd planned. They needed what came through. And then finally is follow your intuition. So this is where I'm going to take a big turn and say, it's pledge month. Okay? See this wonderful, wonderful poster that Jet Walker made. Isn't that the most beautiful, beautiful thing? We have original art for our pledge program. So let me show you how following your intuition fits in with what I just said. So you are going to be asked this month for 4 Sundays only. So you've got some time, but not a lot of time. And that is, you're going to be asked how much generosity in your financial life are you willing to share with your spiritual community in 2017? Because we need to plan. We need to know approximately how much money is going to come in from pledges, because that is by far the biggest part of our budget. And we need to plan. We have some ideas that are marvelous. We have the goal of $350,000, but then our expansion goal is $400,000. We could do so much more with that extra money. So you are going to be asked to say how much you think you're going to give, and of course you can change your mind all through the year. But intuition plays a big part. So if you go inside and you ask, what is mine to give? Here's an example of what might not be the voice of God. You go inside and you hear, well, concerning the music, I really would like more spiritual Cajun bluegrass. So I don't think I'm going to pledge very much. That's not the voice of God, I'm telling you. What might be the voice of God is to hear, if you are open to receiving all of the gifts of your spiritual community, your life would soar. And so maybe you could start with thinking about giving as much as a date night every week. Maybe $50. a date night, a date with me. Not me, Carol, a date with your source. Wouldn't that be beautiful? That might be the voice of God, okay? So that's what I mean. That's my pitch. If your intuition, and especially about the money thing, because that's what I am talking about, if your intuition takes you to a place that you're surprised about, if it says, come on, baby, add a 0 to that. If it takes you to a place that you're wondering about, just sit with it. Because sometimes the first hit, like at that meeting, the minister meeting earlier in the week, every time I get together with ministers, I hear the story of, well, when I was called to be a minister, that inner call, I realized why every minister has told me throughout my training, if you can do anything else, go do that. That's the story in the ministers' meeting. If you can do anything else, go do that, really. This is tough. And the people who stick with it hear the voice over and over again. And we gave an award to the host at the Encinitas Church, Dr. Christian Sorensen, 35 years in the ministry. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. So if your intuition on any topic takes you to a place that's surprising, just sit with it for a bit. Here are the spiritual principles that we talked about today. First, God is all there is. No exceptions. Every situation, every condition, every experience you have, everything is an aspect of the infinite. And next is, the mind of God has answers, solutions, and wisdom for me. And the practice that I would love for you to take and do as soon as you have a private moment is this. Open to your practice of intuitive knowing. So for the inner work, I'm going to do a quick and simple example of an exercise that's in the foundations class. So just turning within and recognizing in your heart of hearts that there is something within that rises up and says, the truth has been spoken today, and you have heard it. And then sitting in that comfort that comes from knowing that the truth surrounds you. That intuition is available. The divine revelation is available. Remember a time when you followed your intuition. Remember a time when either it was a small voice and you followed it, or it was as clear as the telephone and you followed it. It could be as unexpected as the experience of Moses, but you followed the divine calling, and it worked out better than you could ever imagine. And taking that memory that we all have of when you followed your intuition, ask yourself now, what is my intuition telling me? What feeling or voice or internal knowing can I turn to in this moment? And maybe not even say yes if I'm not ready, but just say, oh boy, I hear that. And just sit with that. and know there is more to come. Blessed be.